A new warning about the impact Obamacare could have on the cost of insurance in some different states. The Manhattan Institute for Policy Research looked at 13 states plus Washington, D.C., and found that 9 of those will see increases in premiums, while 5 will see decreases. It says that New Mexico will be the hardest hit with a 130% rate hike, followed by South Dakota, Vermont, and Connecticut. Maine will see the biggest decrease at minus 71%, followed by Colorado, New York, and Ohio. Steve Moore is a senior economics writer for the Wall Street Journal and a Fox News contributor. Hi, Steve.
Hi, Allison.
Let's start with the states with the biggest increases. Why would New Mexico have a 130% rise in costs?
Well, remember, Allison, the way that this law works is that it has all sorts of new mandated benefits and regulations on health care policies. And the states that don't have all of these requirements already, those are the states where costs are going to go up very significantly. And I think the important point of this study, Allison, is remember when Obamacare was debated 4 years ago, the big selling point for Obamacare was it's going to cost less, right? That we're going to bend that cost curve down and that health care costs are going to fall. And now we're finding this study, and by the way, this dovetails with many others that have found the same thing, costs actually will rise for a majority of the people in terms of their premiums, which is bad news for people who are already having a hard time paying for their health care bills.
But interestingly, the Kaiser Family Foundation, not just the Manhattan Institute for Policy Research, the Kaiser Family Foundation released their own report and said that they found that insurance premiums for individuals are coming in lower than was predicted by the CBO. So maybe all of the fear, the dire warnings of prices spiking are not true, or at least overblown.
I doubt that. I mean, you're right. There are two competing studies here. But here is the longer-term problem and why I think Kaiser has the story wrong here. One of the things we know is going to happen, and in fact, a lot of the supporters of Obamacare have made this case, that you're going to have more and more healthy people, Allison, drop out of the market for health care. And as that happens, you're going to only have sick people in the market and older people, and therefore you get into what we call in insurance parlance a kind of death spiral, where costs keep going up and up and up. And as costs go up, more and more healthy people fall out. And I think that's the real long-term problem with making Obamacare fiscally solvent. Now, one way around that, by the way, Allison, is to continue to increase the subsidies, the taxpayer subsidies, to pay for Obamacare so that the patient doesn't pay for it, the taxpayer does. But when we're already running $1 trillion deficit, how do you do that? So I think that the costs are probably going to rise, and it's going to put a real pinch on family budgets.
Let's look at the states where there is good news, the ones that the Manhattan Institute for Policy Research showed. Maine, Colorado, New York, Ohio, what are they doing right that they get big decreases like Maine, 71%? Well,
first of all, they're getting decreases because the cost of health care is already so expensive in those states. I don't know about Maine, but let's take New York, for example. I mean, New York, the costs of health care are more expensive in New York than in any other state. So as you move into this Obamacare system, a state that has supersized costs, their costs are going to fall. The costs that actually have affordable health care, those are the ones that are going to see their costs rise.
The one group of people that seem to really be benefiting from Obamacare, and it's a godsend for them, are those with pre-existing conditions.
Of course.
Maybe it would have been best to just tackle that. I mean, instead of this whole overarching system, which people are still trying to figure out, just kind of zero in where we had the problems.
Well, you've got it exactly right, Allison. First of all, that is the most attractive feature of the Obamacare plan, is that people who have pre-existing conditions, I have a member of my family who has a pre-existing condition, and the costs are incredibly expensive. They would bankrupt the family if those had to be paid for out of pocket. And so you're right. But you don't have to change the entire health care system and everyone's policies to cover those people. And, if you look at polls, 90% of the people who have health insurance today, Allison, they like the coverage they're happy with it. And that's, by the way, Allison, one of the reasons we're seeing a lot of the union members object to Obamacare, because they have pretty attractive Cadillac coverage plans that would be worse under Obamacare than they have right now.
Right. It's complicated, but thanks for helping to explain it for us. Steve Moore, have a great weekend.
Thank you, Allison.
Okay.